Donald Trump might be about to get red states to try to invade blue states. The administration is reportedly looking into having governors of red states order their National Guard troops into blue states without their consent, which has a number of people saying that looks like major steps being taken towards a civil war. And this breaking news is all coming not only as top Democratic governors are currently testifying before Congress on the matter, pushing back and defending their states and sanctuary cities, but also as Governor Gavin Newsom has ignited renewed criticism of Donald Trump's cognitive collapse with fresh evidence from their phone call and even more from a couple deeply concerning mental glitches he had today. Clearly a lot to cover here, folks, and we have all of that and more coming up in today's deep dive into the news that you need to know. So drop a like, subscribe to help save democracy, and let's get into it. Starting with events today that makes Trump's reported threats of civil war far more concerning given what they expose about his mental health.
Because the other night, he came out and said that when you guys spoke, he warned you that if you didn't get things under control, he was going to bring in troops.
Stone cold liar. Stone cold liar. He made that up, like he makes up so many other things. He never said that.
And he also seemed to make up this idea that the National Guard did a great job last night when they weren't here.
They weren't even deployed, and he claimed victory. He's lost it. He hasn't lost a step, and I saw him trip on the steps today. Yeah. I mean, this is serious. He is not the same person that I dealt with just 4 years ago. And he's incapable now of even a train of thought. He's making things up, and he's putting people's lives at risk.
And on that note of making things up, it wasn't just Newsom calling out Trump's continued mental decline. We actually had a major Dementia dawn moment during his press conferences today. First, in this clip where he seems to think Vladimir Putin fought in World War II.
We're celebrating World War II, our victory. I said, your victory? Your victory. Tell me about that. And then I called somebody else, and I happened to speak to President Putin at the time. Now, in all fairness to him, he lost 51 million people, and he did fight. Russia fought. Sort of interesting, isn't it? He fought with us in World War II, and everybody hates him. And Germany and Japan, they're fine. You know, someday somebody will explain that, but I like Germany and Japan too. But Putin is a little confused by that, you know. He said, we lost 51 million people, and we were your ally, and now everybody hates Russia, and they love Germany and Japan. I said, let's explain that sometime, okay?
And that's almost more concerning than Trump showering the war criminal dictator with praise in that clip. But then also today, you had Trump speaking out against his own policies and seemingly not knowing what the hell was going on.
And all of this is you had Trump's disapproval rating at a record high of 60%, according to a new poll from AP, with only 39% of Americans thinking he's doing a good job. But this also, as Trump apparently hates what ICE is doing, even though he is the one that has ICE doing it. Because today you had him posting that his immigration policy is taking away very good long-time workers, and then he blamed Joe Biden for his own policy. Which is many wondering, you know, one, is Trump not actually the president? Like, is Stephen Miller or someone else actually running the country? And or two, like, does he have dementia? Because he's speaking out against his own policy, and the three words I've heard the most from him during this second term is, I don't know. And it's usually about things that most people know about, and a president definitely should. Right? And all of that is the Marines are now expected to arrive in LA tomorrow, and this comes as the National Guard's been deployed in Texas, and Trump is looking at deploying the military to even more American cities. Which again is why we've seen so many people saying, fill the streets this Saturday so you don't fill the prisons later.
And that would all be concerning enough if we weren't also now under the threat of Trump falsifying an invasion just to justify his threats to sic more federal troops from red states onto blue states simply for opposing him. Troops that, by the way, he's not even properly funding or feeding, but more on that in a second.
There's been some talk about using other states' National Guard, red state National Guards to somehow come into a blue state and try and enforce these new Stephen Miller-inspired rules. And that's just not something we're going to accept. But
And NBC News reports tonight that tactical units from ICE, like the ones we have seen this week in LA, have been told to be ready to deploy to 5 other cities run by Democratic leaders. 2 sources familiar with the matter tell NBC News that special response teams, as they're called, teams that use heavy Bearcat-tracked vehicles, long guns, tactical vests, have been ordered to deploy in the following cities: Seattle, Chicago, Philadelphia, the D.C. area, and New York City. And what we are thinking of right now as an LA issue, and what we're talking about as an LA issue or a California issue, is very much quickly becoming a national issue. And remember the order Trump used to send the National Guard into Los Angeles? Doesn't mention California even once. It's a nationwide order. So Trump pretending these largely peaceful protests warrant troops in the streets of LA matters. I mean, because these protests in no way warrant sending in the National Guard. But legally, importantly, to federalize the National Guard, for the president, any president, to order the National Guard into a state without that state's governor's approval, there needs to be either an invasion, a rebellion, or a belief that the president is unable to execute the laws of the United States.
And this is all justifiably insane. But to end this here on a slightly hopeful note, you had Democratic governors, as I mentioned earlier, in the Capitol today, and here is a moment where Lauren Boebert is yelling at J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, for what she calls the events in LA, or what she refers to them as, an insurrection. And I want to play for you some of JB's responses here to show that people are actually, like Governor Gavin Newsom, fighting back against this, thankfully.
I find it hard to believe that you're lecturing us about peaceful protest. Look at what happened January 6th here at the Capitol.
No, what we're seeing in LA is an insurrection. You want to talk about an insurrection? This is an absolute insurrection.
You don't understand what insurrection is when people are trying to overturn an election here at the Congress.
I started this off
you
showing
were
you
here.
the
They were
forum,
attacking you, by the way.
I would expect the same.
I'm answering your question. It is outrageous that you are asking us
Is it peaceful to
when you're the one condoning
to destroy
of people who attack
private and government property
right here at our Capitol?
Governor Hochul,
do you stand by your policy of tying the hands of Illinois law enforcement? Yes or no, sir?
You know, Congresswoman Miller, I am not going to be lectured to by somebody who extols the virtue of Adolf Hitler, of somebody who has allowed the pardoning of January 6th.
I'm reclaiming my time.
Those are people fighting to protect their citizens, to protect their states and their cities. And before we end on Pritzker absolutely flipping the script on these GOP representatives, we should note that in interviews with more than a dozen of those deployed, the National Guard troops, military.com found frustration that the Department of Defense under Secretary Pete Hegseth is not upholding its obligation to provide their formal activation orders, the critical paperwork that not only authorizes their duty status, but also unlocks pay, TRICARE health benefits, and eligibility for Department of the Veterans Affairs benefits. They're not being paid, they're not being fed, they're not even being given a place to sleep. So not only is it up to us to continue to fight back, to protest peacefully, the No Kings protest is on Saturday. Please be safe. If you plan on going, we will be covering the event. But we also need to make sure that we uplift the voices of and support more people like Governor Gavin Newsom and Governor J.D. Pritzker as they push back against this authoritarian regime that wants nothing less than all-out civil war.
Illinois follows the law, but let me be clear. We expect the federal government to follow the law, too. We will not participate in abuses of power. We will not violate court orders. We will not ignore the Constitution. We will not defy the Supreme Court. We will not take away people's rights to peacefully protest. We also respect, and expect this administration to respect, the traditions and legal precedent that dictate how and when our National Guard and military are deployed. As governor, I've had to make the difficult decision to call the Illinois National Guard into service. I have always done it in partnership with my local governments and law enforcement, and with deep and abiding respect for the sacrifice I was asking of our volunteer armed forces. It's wrong to deploy the National Guard and active duty Marines into an American city over the objection of local law enforcement just to inflame a situation and create a crisis. Just as it's wrong to tear children away from their homes and their mothers and fathers who have spent decades living and working in our communities, raising their families.
Thanks for watching, folks. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe to join our resistance here. Turn on post notifications so you don't miss any of our coverage this weekend. And be sure to drop a blue heart and let us know all of your thoughts in those comments down below. For Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse, and I'll see you guys in the next one.